Let's get the basics out of the way. My best friend stole my boyfriend, my career, and then, for the grand finale, my life. It's a tale as old as time, really, if your timeline includes sociopaths with good hair. Chloe was the smiling assassin, the kind of friend who'd compliment your new dress while mentally noting how much better it would look on her. Liam was the golden boy, blessed with a jawline that could cut glass and a spine made of overcooked pasta. They were a match made in hell, and I was just the bug on their windshield. They orchestrated my social ruin with the precision of a military campaign, turned my dream job into a nightmare of whispers and accusations. And when I was finally at my lowest, they snipped the brake lines on my car and watched me become a statistic on a rainy stretch of highway. The last thing I saw wasn't my life flashing before my eyes, but Liam's face, not horrified, but relieved, as he pulled Chloe into his arms. So you can imagine my surprise when I woke up. The gasp was the first thing, a raw, ragged intake of air that burned my lungs. Not the metallic tang of blood and gasoline, but the faint, familiar scent of lavender plug-in air freshener. My eyes snapped open. I wasn't in the twisted metal coffin of my Honda Civic. I was in bed. My bed, in my old, cramped apartment. The one with the persistent water stain on the ceiling that looked vaguely like Abraham Lincoln. I shot upright, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. My hands flew to my chest, expecting the phantom agony of the steering column, but there was nothing. Just smooth, unscarred skin beneath the thin cotton of my t-shirt. I looked at my hands, no cuts, no bruises. A wave of vertigo washed over me. I stumbled out of bed and into the tiny bathroom, flicking on the light. The face staring back from the mirror was mine, but not. It was the 25-year-old me, the one before the stress had carved permanent worry lines between my brows, before my eyes were perpetually shadowed with exhaustion and betrayal. I was fresh, untouched. And then I saw it. My phone lying on the cluttered nightstand, screen dark. With a trembling hand, I reached for it, my thumb hovering over the home button. It buzzed to life, the screen lighting up with a sickeningly cheerful photo of me and Liam at the beach. The date at the top of the screen made my blood run cold. June 18th, 2022. 3 years. It was 3 years to the day before I died. Before the world tilted on its axis and sent me spinning into oblivion. My breath hitched. Time travel? Reincarnation? A really, really vivid death-induced hallucination? As if on cue, the screen lit up again with a new message, a banner notification sliding down from the top. Liam, 3, morning beautiful, can't wait for our anniversary dinner tonight. I'll pick you up at 7. Love you, the 3. That stupid, simple heart emoji was like a punch to the gut. This was it. This was the day, our 3-year anniversary, the dinner I'd been so excited for. The dinner he would be late to because he was with her. In my first life, I'd waited, growing more anxious with every passing minute, calling his phone, which went straight to voicemail. He'd shown up 2 hours late, smelling of a perfume that wasn't mine, with a flimsy excuse about a work emergency. He'd been with Chloe, laying the first brick in the road that would lead directly to my grave. The shock began to recede, replaced by something else. Something cold and hard and sharp. A clarity I had never possessed in my first life. I had been a pawn, a casualty in their sick little game. I remembered the pleading, the crying, the desperate fight to hold on to a man who had already let me go. I remembered the humiliation. Not this time. In my first life, I fought for him. In this one, he was a gift I was happy to give away. My fingers moved over the screen, my movements steady and precise. Me. Something's come up. I'm so sorry, but I can't make it tonight. We need to talk. There, no explanation, no emotion, just a simple, clean cut. I watched the message turn from delivered to read. The 3 little dots appeared, then vanished. Appeared again. Vanished. I could picture him perfectly sitting beside Chloe, his handsome face scrunched up in confusion. Their entire plan hinged on my predictability, on my love for him. I had just taken their script and set it on fire. A slow, unfamiliar smile spread across my face. It felt like stretching a muscle I hadn't used in a very long time. Game on. The next hour was an out-of-body experience. I moved through the apartment like a ghost, a visitor in a museum dedicated to a life that was a complete fabrication. Every object was a landmine of memory. There on the bookshelf was a framed photo of me and Chloe, our heads bent together, laughing uncontrollably at some long forgotten joke. We were at a summer music festival, faces painted, cheap beer in hand. She looked like the very picture of a devoted best friend. It made me want to vomit. I picked it up, my thumb tracing the outline of her smiling face. The smiling assassin. I remembered her helpful advice, always delivered with a furrow of concern. Are you sure you want to pitch that client, Ilara? You seem so stressed lately. Maybe you should take a step back. Or, I don't want to gossip, but I heard what Sarah said about you. I just think you should know who your real friends are. Every word was a carefully placed stone, building a wall around me until she was the only one left inside. My phone started buzzing, a frantic, angry sound against the wood of the coffee table. Liam's face filled the screen. I let it ring. He'd be losing his mind. I had never, not once, been the one to create distance between us. I was the dependable one, the easy one, his anchor. He probably couldn't compute. It rang again and again. On the fourth try, I sighed and picked it up. Hey, I said, my voice deliberately flat. Hey, that's it? Ilara, what the hell is going on? His voice was tight with frustration. You cancel our anniversary dinner over text and say we need to talk? Are you okay? Did something happen? You have no idea, I thought. I'm fine, Liam, just thinking. Thinking about what? He demanded. We were fine this morning. Were we? I asked, the question hanging in the air between us. I walked to the window, looking down at the street below. I don't think we were. We can talk later. I have things to do. What things? What's more important than us? I almost laughed. I'm just getting some air. I'll call you. Before he could argue, I ended the call. The silence that followed was blissful. I knew exactly what was happening on the other end of that line. Chloe would be sliding up next to him, her hand on his arm, her voice dripping with syrupy concern. What's wrong, honey? Is she being difficult? Don't worry, I'm here. It was her signature move. I packed a small overnight bag, my movements efficient. Toothbrush, a change of clothes, my laptop. I wasn't running away, I was advancing in a different direction. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a text. Liam, 3, this isn't you. Let me come over, please, Ilara, don't do this. I deleted the 3 from his contact name. It was surprisingly cathartic. Then I called him back. He answered on the first ring. Ilara? I didn't give him time to speak. Liam, it's not working. The silence on the other end was profound. I could hear his faint, confused breathing. What? What's not working? We were fine this morning. We were perfect. No, I said, the word coming out colder than I intended. You were comfortable. I was convenient. That's not the same as perfect. It's over. Over? What are you talking about? Is this because I said I might be a little late tonight? I can leave work right now. The pathetic irony of it was almost too much to bear. No, Liam, it's not about tonight. It's about everything. Goodbye. I hung up before he could form another word, then immediately blocked his number. I stood in the middle of my living room, the packed bag at my feet, and took a deep breath. The air didn't feel stale anymore. The water stain on the ceiling didn't look like a dead president. It looked like a cloud. A way out. Chloe wanted him. She could have him. I was moving on to bigger, better things, and I knew just where to start. My old life required a proper funeral, and I decided the wake would be held at the Innovate Tomorrow Tech Summit, a gathering of insufferable venture capitalists and caffeine-addicted programmers. It was the perfect place to disappear. Liam, a creature of habit and leisure, wouldn't be caught dead at a work event after 5 p.m., and Chloe would be too busy gluing his shattered ego back together. Getting in was laughably easy. Turns out, being a ghost gives you a certain disregard for minor felonies. I spent 20 minutes on my laptop, found the summit's event branding guide online, and whipped up a flawless imitation of an all-access pass. The name on the badge read Ava Chen, a senior developer from a company that didn't exist. The summit itself was exactly as pretentious as I'd imagined. Housed in a cavernous, minimalist event space, It was a sea of navy blue suits and expensive sneakers. I grabbed a glass of complimentary and surprisingly decent red wine and found a quiet corner to observe. My plan was simple: blend in, maybe overhear some industry gossip, and enjoy the feeling of being utterly anonymous. That plan lasted for about 12 minutes. Distracted by a particularly loud tech bro bragging about disrupting the pet walking space, I turned to move away and walked directly into a wall, a very firm, very expensive wall that just happened to be shaped like a man. The wine in my hand sloshed dramatically, creating a modern art masterpiece in red all over his crisp white shirt and dark tailored suit jacket. "Oh, for the love of—" A deep, irritated voice cut through the air. "Do you know how much this suit costs?" I looked up and up. The man was tall, with severe, impossibly handsome features and the coldest, most piercing blue eyes I had ever seen. There was a dangerous stillness about him, an aura of command that made the noisy room seem to fade into the background. A flicker of recognition sparked in my brain. I'd seen that face before in the society pages, in business journals. It was Damian Blackwood, Liam's estranged, reclusive billionaire brother, the real Blackwood, the one who ran the global empire while Liam was given the family's equivalent of a participation trophy, a small marketing subsidiary to keep him busy. My old self would have dissolved into a puddle of apologies, but the old me was dead. This new me, running on pure, unadulterated nerve, felt a smirk tug at her lips. "Slightly more than my rent, I'm guessing," I retorted, taking a sip of what was left of my wine. "And yet, here we are, both covered in cheap Merlot. The great equalizer." He blinked. It was a small, almost imperceptible reaction, but I saw it. Surprise. He was used to people cowering or fawning, not firing back with sarcasm. His icy gaze swept over me, from my slightly too casual dress to the fake pass hanging around my neck. It was a quick analytical scan, as if he were assessing a balance sheet. "Ava Chen," he read from the pass, his voice laced with disbelief. "I own half the companies on this floor. I've never heard of you." "I'm new," I said with a breezy confidence I didn't feel. "We specialize in stealth innovation. So stealthy, in fact, that even we don't know what we're doing yet." A corner of his mouth twitched. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. "That's either the stupidest business model I've ever heard or the most brilliant." "Let's go with brilliant. It sounds better on a resume." He stared at me for a long moment, the cogs clearly turning in that formidable brain. I held his gaze, refusing to back down. The air crackled with a strange energy. He wasn't just looking at me. He was trying to solve me. Finally, he reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a sleek black metal business card. "Send me the bill for the dry cleaning," he said, his tone all business again. I took the card. His name was embossed in simple silver font. Damian Blackwood. No title. It didn't need one. "Don't worry," I said. "I'm sure you can afford it." I gave him a final, mischievous smile and turned to walk away, my heart doing a staccato rhythm against my ribs. I had just insulted one of the most powerful men in the city. It was, without a doubt, the most thrilling thing I had ever done. The next morning, I was sitting in a cheap coffee shop, nursing a latte and scrolling through rental listings on my laptop. A new life required a new apartment, one without ghosts in the ceiling. I pulled Damien's card from my pocket. It felt heavy, substantial. Sending him a dry cleaning bill felt predictable. Boring. So I texted him instead, me. "I've decided your suit is a lost cause. How about you buy me dinner to make up for the emotional distress of ruining couture?" I hit send before I could second-guess myself. I figured there was a 99% chance he'd ignore it, or worse, have his assistant send me a restraining order. But less than a minute later, my phone buzzed. Damian Blackwood. Audacious. "I'll have my driver pick you up at 8. L'Etoile. Don't be late." L'Etoile. A restaurant so exclusive I wasn't sure it actually existed outside of magazines. It seemed I had his attention. That night was a chess match disguised as a date. The restaurant was hushed and candlelit, a world away from the summit. Damien was even more intimidating in person, his presence filling the space. He didn't waste time with small talk. You're a puzzle, Alara, he said, after the waiter had taken our order. He'd used my real name. Of course he had. My Ava Chen alias probably hadn't survived a 5-minute Google search. I prefer Enigma. It's more mysterious, I said, taking a sip of water. You show up uninvited to a private event using a fake name, destroy a $10,000 suit without so much as an apology, and then have the nerve to demand I buy you dinner, he listed, ticking off the points with his fingers. That's either a new level of social climbing or a cry for help. Let's just say I'm reassessing my life goals, I said. So, what's it like being the other Blackwood brother, the one who actually works for a living? His expression didn't change, but his eyes sharpened. It's quiet and profitable. My brother prefers the spotlight and the drama that comes with it. Drama? I asked, feigning innocence. He always seems so stable. Damien let out a short, humorless laugh. Liam is stable the way a house of cards is stable. He's propped up by my father's money and an ego that requires constant validation. Tell me, Alara, what's your connection to my brother? The question was a scalpel, sharp and precise. He knew. Of course he knew. We dated, I said simply. We undated yesterday. His loss, it seems, Damien said, his gaze intense. He always did have terrible judgment. The rest of the dinner continued in that vein. A parry and thrust of questions and witty deflections. I learned that he saw Liam as a liability, a spoiled child he was forced to tolerate. He learned that I was a recently unemployed graphic designer with a newfound taste for chaos. I fed him just enough to keep him hooked, a trail of breadcrumbs leading him wherever I wanted. The next day, the breadcrumbs paid off. A friend sent me a link to a popular society blog. There, under the headline, Mystery Woman Dines with Reclusive Billionaire, was a grainy but unmistakable photo of Damien and me, caught mid-laugh at L'Etoile. I scrolled through the comments, a wide, wicked grin spreading across my face. It was better than I could have hoped. I knew with absolute certainty that Liam and Chloe had seen this. My phone, which had been blissfully silent, buzzed. It was an unknown number. I answered. Elara? A sickly sweet voice chirped. It's Chloe. Oh my God, I saw that picture. I've been so worried sick since you and Damien Blackwood. Are you okay? Isn't he a little intense? The fake concern was so thick I could have cut it with a knife. That's so sweet of you to worry, Chloe, I said, my voice dripping with false sincerity. But I'm a big girl. I can handle intense. How's Liam, by the way? I imagine he's keeping you pretty busy. The silence on her end was my reward. Checkmate. Dating a billionaire, even a fake one, had its perks. Damien was a surprisingly good conversationalist when you got him talking about something other than quarterly earnings, art, history, the physics of a perfect golf swing. Our dates became a regular thing. Each one was a public affair, a carefully curated performance for an audience of two, Liam and Chloe. Each paparazzi photo was a fresh twist of the knife. My real strategy, however, was playing the long game. Knowledge of the future is a powerful weapon, and I was ready to go nuclear. One evening, I was at Damien's penthouse, a sterile, magnificent space that felt more like a modern art gallery than a home. He was reviewing market reports on a tablet, his brow furrowed in concentration. I glanced over his shoulder. Oh, Omnicore, I said casually, pointing at a name on the screen. That's the company Liam won't shut up about. He's trying to convince your father to let him sink a huge chunk of his trust fund into it. Says it's a guaranteed 10-bagger. Damien grunted, not looking up. The projections are aggressive, but the tech is sound. Is it? I mused, swirling the wine in my glass. Funny. My friend's brother is a lead engineer there. Says their server infrastructure is a complete house of cards, held together with duct tape and wishful thinking. He's jumping ship next month before it all comes crashing down, but hey, what do I know? It's probably nothing. I saw his fingers pause their scrolling. His gaze lifted from the screen and met mine. A flicker of calculation in those blue eyes. Nothing, he repeated slowly, is ever nothing. I had planted the seed. Now I just had to wait for it to grow. And meanwhile, the other front was heating up. Liam, fueled by a potent cocktail of jealousy and wounded pride, had started a full-blown campaign to win me back. It started with texts. Liam, remember that cafe in the North End where we had our first date? I went there today. It made me think of you. I left him on read. Liam, I still have the necklace I was going to give you for our anniversary. I want you to have it. Delete. Then came the gifts. A massive bouquet of lilies, my favorite, arrived at the new small studio I'd rented. I left them with the building superintendent. A vintage first edition of my favorite book was messengered over. I donated it to the public library. Each rejected offering was a small victory, a confirmation that I was no longer the girl who could be bought with trinkets and empty sentiment. He couldn't comprehend it. In his world, every woman had a price. His inability to meet mine was driving him insane. Chloe, for her part, had changed tactics. The fake concern had been replaced by thinly veiled condescension. She'd accidentally run into me at a coffee shop, Liam in tow. "Elara!" she'd exclaimed, her smile not reaching her eyes. "You look, well, city life suits you. Doesn't she look well, Liam?" Liam just stared at me, his expression a mix of longing and confusion. "I'm great, Chloe," I'd replied, giving her a dazzling smile. "Damien and I are heading to Paris this weekend. He says the fall is the best time to see the Louvre without the crowds. You two should go sometime." "Oh, wait." I let the smile falter. "Never mind." Her face tightened. The implication was clear. Damien could offer me the world. Liam could barely offer me his full attention. The final act was set for the Blackwood Foundation Gala, the crown jewel of the city's social calendar. It was an event where deals were made, alliances were forged, and reputations were destroyed. When Damien asked me to be his official partner, I knew it was time for the curtain to fall. I chose my armor carefully. A floor-length gown of shimmering red silk. It was the color of fire, of revenge, of life. The polar opposite of the drab, sensible black I had dyed in. When Damien saw me, even his stoic composure cracked. "Red," he said, his voice a low murmur, "the color of victory." The gala was a glittering spectacle of wealth and power. We walked into the grand ballroom and a hush fell over the crowd. Every eye was on us. I felt 100 pairs of eyes sizing me up, whispering behind champagne flutes. But for the first time, I didn't feel like an imposter. I felt like a queen. We found them near the orchestra, Chloe clinging to Liam's arm, her dress a pale, forgettable shade of beige. Liam looked terrible. He was pale, his suit looked rumpled, and he was already halfway through a glass of whiskey. The Omnicore stock had begun its nosedive that morning. He saw us. His eyes locked on me and something inside him snapped. He stalked towards us, dragging Chloe behind him. "Well, well, well," he slurred, his voice dripping with venom. "Look what we have here, my replacement." "Liam, don't!" Chloe hissed, trying to pull him back. "What is this, Elara?" he spat, getting right in my face. I could smell the alcohol on his breath. "You dumped me and a week later you're clinging to my brother? I knew you were ambitious, but this is a new low. You're a user, a gold digger." The surrounding conversations died down. We were the main event now. Damien stepped in front of me, a protective shield. "I would choose your next words very carefully, little brother." But I placed a hand on Damien's arm and gently moved him aside. This was my fight. I looked at Liam, at his contorted, angry face, and I didn't feel fear or anger. I just felt pity. "It's okay, Damien," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "He's right. I am a user." Liam looked momentarily triumphant. "I used to think he was the love of my life," I continued, my voice carrying in the sudden silence. "I used to think Chloe was my best friend. We all make mistakes." "But some mistakes are bigger than others, aren't they, Liam?" I took a step closer, lowering my voice so only he and Chloe and Damien could hear. "Like, say, cutting the brake lines on a 2018 Honda Civic on a rainy night on June 18th, 3 years from now." The color drained from Liam's face. Chloe's jaw went slack. The specific, impossible detail hit them like a physical blow. Before either of them could react, Damien spoke, his voice like ice, but loud enough for the nearest clusters of guests to hear. "Don't look so shocked, Liam. It's a funny thing about family. You think you can hide your dirty little secrets?" He looked past Liam, his cold gaze settling on Chloe. Did you really think I would let a snake like you get so close to my idiot brother without doing my homework? I know about the plagiarism at university. I know about the corporate sabotage at your last 3 jobs. In fact, he said, pulling out his phone, my investigators flagged a certain accidental death that hasn't even happened yet as being a statistically probable outcome given your girlfriend's proclivities. I was just waiting for you to hand me the rope to hang yourself with. He turned his gaze back to his brother. And you, Liam? Your Omnicore investment? It's worthless. I liquidated my own holdings weeks ago. I tried to warn you. He paused, letting the words sink in. You never listen. It was over. Utterly, devastatingly over. Liam stood there swaying on his feet, his world collapsing around him. Chloe looked like a cornered animal. They hadn't just been exposed. They'd been surgically dismantled by a master. And I had handed him the scalpel. The fallout was swift and brutal. The whispers at the gala turned into headlines by morning. The Blackwood name, associated with power and success, was now linked to fraud and scandal. To save the family's reputation, the patriarch acted decisively. I read the news on my tablet sitting in the sunlit breakfast nook of Damien's penthouse. Forbes, Blackwood scion Liam Blackwood disowned amidst corporate fraud scandal. City Times, socialite Chloe Vance charged in university plagiarism case, further investigations pending. They were ruined. Not with a bang, but with the quiet, efficient click of a banker's pen and the rustle of legal papers. There was no dramatic courtroom showdown for me to witness, just the cold, hard reality of their lives being systematically erased. I felt a quiet, detached satisfaction. It wasn't the giddy thrill of revenge I might have once craved. It was the calm of a balanced equation. Justice. That evening, Damien and I sat in his cavernous living room, the city lights twinkling below like a fallen constellation. The silence between us was different now. The games were over. There was no more pretense. I was the first to speak, my voice soft in the quiet room. You have to know at first, it was just about them, about surviving, about getting back what they took. I was using you. He turned from the window to look at me, his expression unreadable. I know, he said simply. I was using you too. I blinked. What? You were the perfect, unwitting key to a problem I was already trying to solve, he explained, his voice low and even. Liam's incompetence was becoming a threat to the company. His association with a woman like Chloe was a liability I couldn't afford. You were my catalyst. I just had to point you in the right direction and watch the inevitable happen. It should have stung, being called a key, a tool, but it didn't. It was honest. The difference is, he continued, taking a step closer, somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing a key and started seeing you. And what do you see now? I asked, my heart beating a little faster. He was standing in front of me now, his shadow falling over me. He reached out and tucked a stray strand of hair behind my ear, his touch surprisingly gentle. I see the woman who walked into a room full of sharks and made them her pets, he said, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips. The one who wears revenge like a couture gown. The one who makes a $10,000 suit look better with wine on it. I looked up at him, at this brilliant, ruthless, and unexpectedly sincere man. The lines had blurred. What started as a calculated alliance had morphed into something real, something forged in secrets and strategy. I had sought him out as a weapon, but I had found a partner. So what now? I whispered. Now, he said, his voice a low murmur. We have dinner, and this time, you're not allowed to spill anything. 6 months later, I stood in the center of my own office. It was a sleek, minimalist space on the 34th floor of a downtown skyscraper with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a panoramic view of the city. The walls were a clean, crisp white, the furniture modern and uncluttered. It was the absolute antithesis of the cramped, ghost-filled apartment where I had woken up to my second chance. My company, Phoenix Design, was thriving. After the Blackwood scandal broke, several of Damien's associates, impressed by my audacity, had reached out. With a little seed money from an anonymous investor, I didn't have to be a genius to identify, and a portfolio I'd worked tirelessly to build. I had created my own empire from the ashes of my old life. The mock-ups are brilliant, Alara. Absolutely brilliant. A client's voice buzzed from the speakerphone on my desk. The board loved them. You're a miracle worker. I just translate good ideas into a visual language, Mark, I said, smiling. You guys did the hard part. After the call, I walked to the window, looking down at the city that was now mine. I was no longer defined by my trauma or by the men in my life. I wasn't Liam's tragic ex-girlfriend or Damien's mysterious partner. I was Alara, founder and CEO. I had done more than just get my life back. I had built a new one that was infinitely better. That evening, I was with Damien on his balcony. A comfortable silence settled between us as we watched the sun dip below the skyline. He was reading the news on his tablet, a habit he never broke. Interesting, he said suddenly, his brow furrowing slightly. What is? I asked, leaning against him. Chloe Vance's plea bargain, he said, tapping the screen. In exchange for a reduced sentence on the fraud charges, she's offered up information on other indiscretions. She's claiming an unnamed associate from a rival firm, a Mr. Sterling at Sterling Global, provided the technical know-how for the automotive modifications. He said the name coolly, but I saw it. A flicker of something in his eyes. Not surprise, recognition. A name, you know? I asked quietly. He turned the tablet off, the city's reflection appearing on the dark screen. Sterling is a snake I thought we'd scotched years ago. He's been trying to get inside leverage on Blackwood Industries for a decade. He looked at me, a grim, assessing glint in his eyes. It seems your little personal drama was just a scene in a much larger and far more boring play about corporate espionage. I processed that. My death hadn't just been about a jealous friend and a weak-willed boyfriend. I was collateral damage in a corporate war I knew nothing about. The thought should have been terrifying. Instead, it was clarifying. It severed the last emotional tie I had to the past. It was never about me. Damien watched my face, then a slow, dangerous smile spread across his. Good thing you're not afraid of the stage. I looked out at the glittering expanse of the city, a world of possibilities stretching out before me. My second chance hadn't been a gift. It had been an opportunity. I had faced down my ghosts and exorcised them. My relationship with Damien wasn't a fairy tale ending. It was a strategic alliance that had blossomed into a partnership of equals. He hadn't saved me. He had given me the space and the tools to save myself. A genuine smile, free from sarcasm or strategy, touched my lips. I had found a hard-won peace, a future that was mine to write. I whispered the words into the cool night air, a promise to myself. The best revenge isn't watching them burn, it's learning to fly.